Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Blues podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and your number one source for daily Blues content. I'm Josh Hyman, and I'm going to be taking you guys on a solo episode today. Got lots to cover. We took a day off yesterday. I'm busy with finals. Tommy's busy with work, and he's feeling a little under the weather, but we're back today, Tuesday, with a very exciting episode. I'm going to be talking about first segment, sort of talking about the recent stretch of game for the St. Louis Blues, including the loss to the Anaheim Ducks in overtime. Second segment, I'm going to be talking about the injuries and the COVID situation that have been plaguing the Blues for so long. And then in the third segment, I'm going to be previewing tonight's game between the St. Louis Blues and Dallas Stars. But before I get into that, I want to thank anyone and everyone out there who is making us your first listen. We really appreciate anyone who, wakes up, morning cup of coffee, commute to work, commute to school, whatever it may be, throws on an episode. That's why we make these short 20-minute bite-sized episodes. We want you guys to be able to listen to them conveniently, easily, and hopefully to start your day. So that being said, thanks you to anyone who is making us your first listen. That being said, the St. Louis Blues have been in a very, very difficult stretch lately. Not only have they been playing games at a rapid pace, pretty much every other day for a good 2 weeks. On top of that, they are dealing with a very frustrating COVID and injury situation with lots of guys going down with COVID and lots of guys going down with injuries. My personal take on it is, I've seen a lot of people say like, oh, yeah, the Blues situation is different because most of their roster troubles are because of their injuries. My follow-up to that is, well, if the Blues had a fully healthy roster or a complete roster, and we're able to call people up due to COVID, because of the people that they're losing with COVID, guys like Braden Shed wouldn't have to play through injury and therefore go down again with an injury, and end up on injured reserve. Same with Kyrou. Kyrou got injured, came in to play the next game, re-aggravated his injury, and now he's not playing, not in the lineup. So it's really a difficult situation for the St. Louis Blues. I'm going to be getting more into it in the second segment. But it's really frustrating to see them handcuffed as much as they are. It really feels like they're at a disadvantage. We're seeing it again tonight against the Stars. They're playing with a very incomplete roster. Luckily, they have 18 skaters, which wasn't a guarantee for them in the past. But still, I'm going to look at the lines a little bit later. It's still very clearly handicapping the St. Louis Blues. But that being said, they have done a spectacular job of battling through it. Let me pull up the tweet in front of me that I sent out the other day. But basically, throughout this last 5-game stretch, the Blues have earned a point in all 5 of those games. They're 3-0-2 in their last 5 games. 3 of those 5 games were played with less than 18 skaters, meaning they had to play 17 skaters in 3 of those 5 games. One of those games was played with a emergency backup goalie as their backup, from the get-go. Another one of those games was started with John Gillies, their 5th string goalie. If you go Binnington, Husso, Hoffer, Lindgren, Gillies. So Gillies was the 5th string goalie. He had to start one of those games. A couple of those games were started with Charlie Lindgren, who is the Blues, like I said, their 4th string goalie, if you assume Hofer is above him. And none of those games were with Binnington, Perron, Falk, and a lot more guys. So, like I said, I'm getting into that a little bit more in the second segment. But the Blues have done a really, really good job of battling adversity over this last stretch of 5 games. Anytime you can earn a point in 5 straight games is spectacular. You take that as a win, without a doubt. And the fact that it's come at such an adverse time for the St. Louis Blues when they've played some really, really tough opponents. A couple of those games have been against Tampa and Florida. And Anaheim's no slouch either. They're a top 10 team in the NHL. Really just anytime you're going up against another NHL team with a roster as beaten and battered as the St. Louis Blues, it's going to be an uphill battle. And they have proven that they can step up to the plate and really battle adversity head on. We've seen it, consistently this season, especially this last 5 games, that the Blues have really embodied that next man up mentality. I mean, look at Charlie Lindgren with the best goals allowed average in the NHL. In his limited sample size, the Blues have done a really good job of playing in front of these third, fourth string goalies. And just not, I don't want to say making them look better than they are, but giving them a really easy job, giving them a really easy night. We haven't really seen a whole lot of high danger scoring chances against the Blues lately. They've done a really, really good job of limiting opponents and limiting the chances that they get, making life easy for, the Charlie Lindgrens and the John Gillies of the world that, weren't really expected to take as much of a workload as they are ending up taking on this season. That being said, um, I can't say enough positive things about the performance of the Blues in the last 5 games. Whether it's the defense really seeming like they're shoring up their scheme and playing really, really consistent hockey. A guy like Robert Bortuzzo has stepped up huge, been huge on the penalty kill for the Blues. Lots of other names as well you can just keep throwing out there of guys that just have really stepped up in this period of adversity and have allowed the Blues to get points in 5 straight when they have no business having it the way that their roster is so depleted. Um, obviously would have liked to win 5 in a row, sure. But that being said, I said at the beginning of this stretch, even if they don't win these games, it's just a matter of showing that you belong and showing that you can battle this adversity. And they have blown my expectations out of the water with their ability to battle this adversity. Not only are they staying in games, but they're winning games. They're beating good teams. They're staying in it. They're earning a point against a really strong Anaheim team. Um, it's really, really reassuring to know that the Blues can play this well with this handicap of a roster. I think a lot of the guys have done a really good job of playing into Craig Berube's system, and you could maybe argue that it's because there's a lot more grinders down in the AHL that come up and fit Berube's system a little bit better. But that being said, I don't think that means that once the lineup gets fully healthy, the Blues are going to struggle. I think all this is going to do is motivate the guys that are in the lineup long term. I mean, you got a guy like Logan Brown, who is in the AHL, who's now playing on the first line tonight, could definitely stick around moving forward for the St. Louis Blues. A guy like Nathan Walker, who had 3 career goals before joining the Blues this season, doubled it in one game and then got a goal and an assist in his next one. He's been spectacular. So there's been a lot of guys that have really come out of the woodworks unexpectedly and argued why they deserve a spot on this team this year. And the forward depth just continues to get stronger for the St. Louis Blues. You worry down the line about the health of a guy like David Perron, Braden Shen, whatever it may be. Now, you got guys in the wings just itching to come up and make an impact for the St. Louis Blues. That being said, I do want to talk about the guys that haven't been making an impact for the St. Louis Blues in the second segment, sort of go through the list of injuries and COVID absences. I got a big, long list that I want to read through. It's kind of comical at this point. They are getting a few of those names back tonight against the Stars, so I'm going to be talking about all of that in the second segment. But first, I want to tell you guys about one of my favorite foods, and that is steak. If you're like me, you love a good steak. Nothing I love more than coming home from a long day of class or a long day of work, cooking myself up a delicious steak. It's my favorite food. I'm not exaggerating. I would eat steak every meal of every day if I could, and if it wouldn't, clog my arteries. That being said, if you want to get yourself a nice pack of steaks, order them. You got to check out Omaha Steaks. The holidays are right around the corner, and finding the perfect gift is tricky. Omaha Steaks makes it easy to send friends and family an unforgettable gift and guaranteed to be loved. Go to omahasteaks.com and enter NHL into the search bar to order the perfect gift package. For $99.99, you'll get 24 entrees like the world famous bacon wrap filet mignon, chicken breast, sides, desserts, and so much more. When you use code NHL, you'll also get an additional 8 Omaha Steak burgers free with your order. So that's 24 entrees plus an additional 8 steak burgers free with your order. We've heard all the reports about shortages and shipping delays, so don't wait. Order the perfect gift package today at omahasteaks.com. You'll get 8 free burgers when entering the code NHL. Achieve gifting greatness with Omaha Steaks. Incredible flavor, incredible value, 100% guaranteed. omahasteaks.com, keyword NHL. Now, if you got to go to Omaha Steaks or anything like that, you need yourself a nice smartphone. And smartphone bills are getting really expensive nowadays. And you listen to podcasts for the power of knowledge. Knowledge about the St. Louis Blues or knowledge about whatever. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of tidbit of knowledge into saving some money. You can switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money. Get 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month per line and a free 5G smartphone when you switch, so you can get all the latest episodes. The Power of one of America's largest 5G networks, so you can do it all at the speed of 5G. And with all that money you'll save and that knowledge you'll gain, just how powerful will you become? You gotta switch to Boost Mobile to find out. Plus, you can get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G smartphone when you switch to one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save. Boost Mobile. And there's a disclaimer: the free phone is limited to new customers and only one per line. Additional restrictions apply. Offers and coverage not available everywhere for all phones and networks. So to make sure you qualify, see boostmobile.com for details. All right, moving on to the second segment of today's episode. Positives for the first segment. This one I'm going to be going a little bit into the negatives of the St. Louis Blues, and that is all the injuries and the COVID restrictions that they've been dealing with. Right now, or with last game, the Blues were missing David Perron, Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas, Tyler Bozak, Clem Costin, James Neal, Justin Falk, Jake Wallman, Jordan Binnington, Billy Husso, and Braden Shen for the end of the game. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players out for the St. Louis Blues, including their first and second string goalie, their arguably best defenseman, two of their best forwards, three of their best forwards in Perron, Kyrou, and Thomas. And Shen as well. The list goes on and on. The Blues have been ravaged by injuries, and it's been frustrating. I said this before the first time the Blues had to play with 17 skaters, and that all it was going to do is just lead to more injuries, and we saw it in the first game. Billy Husso and Jake Wallman went down with injuries, and now Braden Shen, who's playing through an injury that had the Blues had a fully healthy roster, he probably would have been resting a little bit more, re-aggravates his injury, and now finds himself out of the lineup again. Jordan Kyrou, same thing. Injured himself in one game. Was a little shaky for the rest of the game. Didn't play a whole lot. Came in the next game, played pretty well, and then all of a sudden gets hit. Same sort of area, re-aggravates that injury, and now he's out of the lineup. The list goes on and on. Billy Husso, you could argue, just facing a whole lot of pressure, extra pressure. He gets injured. You could come up with a link of everyone there. How if things had been perfect, they wouldn't have been hurt, whatever, what have you. But the fact of the matter is, had the Blues maybe been given a little bit more relief due to all their COVID absences, maybe we wouldn't be in such a ridiculously injury plagued boat right now. That being said, all you can really do is try to move forward and deal with the adversity as it impacts you. And I think the St. Louis Blues have done a very good job of that. They've won, like I said, they've won 3 of their last 5. They've gotten points in all 5 of those games, and they really don't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. That being said, it's frustrating to know that once this roster gets fully healthy, if that ever happens, it's going to be a bit of a reset for the Blues because they're playing this well right now, but they're playing this well with a ragtag thrown together roster of different guys from different areas, et cetera, et cetera. It's frustrating for the Blues. You can't really build chemistry that way. You can't really build consistent lines, consistent scheme. You can't really do anything like that just because they're so forced to just throw together whatever lineup they can muster together on any given night. You can't really try to stick one forward line together the whole time and have them build chemistry. You're really just working with whatever pieces are available to you on any given night. And so far, that's worked for the Blues. But the frustrating part is we haven't really seen consistent lines or anything like that for the longest time, just because of how injury riddled the St. Louis Blues are. We haven't been able to see the beautiful Russian line of Barbashev, Tarasenko, and Buchnevich has been broken up a little bit lately, just because of the fact that the Blues are really scrambling to try to get 4 cohesive lines together. Looking at the lineup tonight for the St. Louis Blues, the forwards look like Brandon Saad, Ryan O'Reilly, Logan Brown. The Russian line is back together with Buchnevich, Barbashev, and Tarasenko. Nathan Walker, Tyler Bozak, and Oscar Sundberg back in the lineup for the St. Louis Blues. Alexei Torpachenko making his NHL debut alongside Dakota Joshua and Michael Pekka. Defense, Nico Mikkola, Colton Parayko, Torrey Krug, Justin Falk, who is making his return from COVID protocols, Marco Scandella, and Robert Bortuzzo with Charlie Lindgren in net. First and foremost, I'm really worried about the mustache battle that is bound to happen between Justin Falk and Charlie Lindgren. 2 of the best stashes on the team have yet to play in a game together this season, so I'm a little worried that much masculinity and will cause a little bit of rift and a little bit of chemistry issues. Jokes aside, though, I am stoked to have Tyler Bozak and Justin Falk back in the lineup. Justin Falk, like I said, it was arguably our best defenseman all season. Tyler Bozak, you know, huge underrated piece for the St. Louis Blues. Really, really shores up that bottom six, and he will do so against the Dallas Stars, which I'm going to be getting into a little bit more in the third segment. But looking at that lineup, you got a guy like Logan Brown on the first line who was in the AHL just a few weeks ago. Nathan Walker up on the third line again in the AHL a few weeks ago. Alexei Torpachenko making his NHL debut. Michael Pekka made his NHL debut last week. Charlie Lindgren, fourth string goalie, if you count Joel Hofer as the third string goalie. So not the lineup I was expecting to look at this point in the season for the St. Louis Blues. But that being said, I'm still excited to see. That Russian line is always super fun to watch. Logan Brown has been extremely impressive in these past few games. I'm excited to watch Justin Falks return to the lineup and more. The Blues keep getting stronger. The Blues keep adding names back to this lineup. They're only going to get better because, like I said, they're just the only thing you can really compare it to is the last few games when they've had an incomplete roster. They can look at the lineup tonight and say, yeah, we're not fully healthy, but it's a heck of a lot better than what we were dealing with at this time last week. So it's going to be good motivation for them, knowing what they've been through, knowing that they've really battled these last few weeks. And tonight should be a little bit of a breather for them, knowing that they got 18 guys out there that'll be able to, skate hard fully. No one's really nursing injuries, hopefully, out there. You should have 18 guys that can take up reasonable amount of ice time. You won't have guys playing extra minutes, anything like that. Obviously, do still have Charlie Lindgren in net, but he's looked really, really strong for the Blues this season. No reason to be worried about that. The only thing that I'd really be worried about is just the depth, the forward depth. If the big names of this team have trouble scoring, you gotta rely on Nathan Walker, Logan Brown to continue their production that wasn't really expected out of them this season. I think that they can do it. I think that the depth of the St. Louis Blues has been their greatest asset this season. It has been their greatest asset for the past couple of seasons. And we went into this year talking about how this might be the deepest team the Blues have had in a very long time, and they are absolutely being tested on it. That being said, the Blues are taking on the Dallas Stars tonight at 8:30 Eastern time. So when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the matchup tonight, my pick for locked on player of the game, and more. But first, I want to tell you guys about Stance Socks. Now, when I first heard about Stance Socks, I thought it was kind of like a hype beast thing, overrated. Who would pay that much for socks, etc., etc. But then I got my hands on a pair, and honestly, I'm getting pretty close to replacing every pair of socks I own with Stance Socks. Founded in 2009, Stance Apparel presents a radical reinvention of socks underwear and active apparel with a sharp focus on comfort, quality, and creativity. Stance brings an atypical aesthetic alongside some of pop culture's hottest collaborators for the ultimate in style and self-expression, because everything you wear should be a direct extension of who you are and how you feel. They have so many different designs. Whether you're like a music fan, you can get some Wu-Tang fan, Bob Marley socks. If you're a sports fan, they got Major League Baseball, NBA players. If you're a movie fan, they've got Pixar, Disney, Marvel, and my personal favorite, Harry Potter. But whatever you might desire, Stance has something for you. They are so soft and comfortable, so high quality. Like I said, I'm getting close to pulling the trigger and just literally replacing every sock I own with Stance socks. Stance believes that the perfect fit matters more than fitting in, that those who feel good do good. Go see for yourself. Register for an account at stance.com and get 15% off your first purchase. Use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout to apply. Enter the color or enjoy the color and comfort of a life less ordinary with Stance. And I'll be right back. All right, coming back here for the third segment of today's episode. The St. Louis Blues battle the Dallas Stars tonight at 8:30 Eastern. Now, this should be up on YouTube in time for the game. I'm not sure about podcasts, so if you're listening to this on podcast, it might be a little dated. So I'm not going to try. I'm going to try to keep this a little bit more broad, just that way, even after or during the game, it can still apply. That being said, looking at the lines for tonight, what am I excited about? Who am I excited to see? I'm really excited to see Logan Brown on that first line. I think he's been really, really strong. Big body, really strong on the puck. Has made some really, really good plays for the St. Louis Blues. Up there with Saad and O'Reilly is going to be a big test for him. O'Reilly, a huge two-way guy for the St. Louis Blues. Brandon Saad kind of been a bit of a sniper for the Blues this year. And then Logan Brown sort of piecing into that line as like a grinder almost role, but he can be a sneaky playmaker as well. He's made some good passes, had some good opportunities. So I'm really excited to see what he can do with that line. Obviously, the Russian connection of Buchnevich, Barbashev, and Tarasenko has been spectacular for them. I'm really looking forward to seeing them continue to steamroll opponents. Also, really excited to see Alexei Torpachenko in the lineup tonight. Toropchenko, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's a guy that I've had my eye on for a while for the St. Louis Blues, a guy that I really think could make an impact for them down the line. I don't know if this season was when I expected to see him in the lineup, but here we are with the Blues injuries and all of that. Alexei Toropchenko making his NHL debut tonight alongside Dakota Joshua, another guy who has really, really impressed me over the past few games. Just played into the system really well. I think Toropchenko will do the same. He's a grinder type player. He can, throw the body around, but also has a heck of a lot of skill as well. And that's that Russian connection. So who knows? I'm excited to see what he can do, what he can bring. It's always exciting to watch a new name in the lineup. As far as the defense, Torrey Krug and Justin Falk, I'm really looking forward to seeing that pairing. Justin Falk has been, like I said, at times the best defenseman on the St. Louis Blues consistently. When he went down with injury, it was really, really difficult, or with COVID, I should say, it was really, really difficult. And I was worried that the defense would implode. And they kind of did the exact opposite. They kind of got shored up a little bit. They tightened the ship a little bit. And I'm looking forward to adding Justin Falk to a defense that has probably been playing their best hockey of the season over the past few games. Charlie Lindgren, again, in net. I'm excited to see what he can do. He's been really, really strong for the Blues in the last few games, and I think opponents, haven't really been expecting that. They don't know what to expect out of him. They don't have his game down as much as they have a guy like Jordan Binnington. So it's a little bit harder to take, to game plan against a guy that you haven't seen as much like Charlie Lindgren, but he's proven why he deserves a spot in the NHL. And he's proven that the Blues goaltender depth is maybe just as strong as their forward depth. Doug Armstrong always talks about how important it is to keep the goaltending cupboard stacked, and we've seen that this season. Even a guy like John Gillies, who was their fifth string goalie at the beginning of the year, comes in and plays a really strong game. Obviously didn't get the win, but looked really, really sharp and looked like he could be a backup on this team if need be. Even like Charlie Lindgren could look like, obviously it's a small sample size, but Charlie Lindgren's looked like a starting quality goaltender for the St. Louis Blues. Billy Husso has also looked like a starting quality goaltender for the St. Louis Blues. So they've really had a plethora of depth at the goaltending position and the forward position that has allowed them to thrive despite these injuries and despite the roster constraints that they're facing right now. That being said, going to be a tough matchup against the Dallas Stars, divisional opponent, always difficult. Stars and the Blues always battle hard. That being said, I do think the Blues have the edge tonight. They have been a bit of a better team as of late, and I think they do have a stronger roster, although with the injuries, you could argue maybe not. That being said, my pick for locked on player at the game tonight, I got to go with who I think has been the best forward over the last few games for the St. Louis Blues, and that is Pavel Buchnevich. He has been so strong for the Blues. He's created so many opportunities, just drove the offense at every chance he's gotten. And I think that tonight against the Stars, he's going to continue to sort of break out of his shell and establish himself as one of the best, if not the best forward on the St. Louis Blues team. Playing with Barbashev and Tarasenko, that line has been so strong lately for the St. Louis Blues. And it's really been spearheaded by Pavel Buchnevich. He's inspired Tarasenko to play better. Ivan Barbashev has really come into his own as a strong forward this season for the St. Louis Blues, having a bit of a breakout year. And I think that's, that all falls on the shoulders of Pavel Buchnevich. Not to say that Tarasenko and Barbashev aren't having spectacular seasons on their own, but I think without Pavel Buchnevich, maybe they don't take that next step that they've taken this year just because of that chemistry of that line is so strong. If I could pick a locked on line of the game, it would be all three of those guys. But I do think Pavel Buchnevich is sort of the heart and soul of that line and almost the heart and soul of the forward core in general, just with the effort that he brings on every single shift. It really just rubs off on the rest of the forwards and defensemen as well. He just brings an energy to the team that really provides a spark and motivation. And I'm really looking forward to watching him play tonight against the Dallas Stars. So he is my pick for locked on player of the game. But that being said, I think we're out of time here today on the Locked On Blues podcast. So I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. That way, whenever a new video goes live, you can check it out. Be the first ones to watch and comment. Make sure you follow us on social media at Locked On Blues on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Hyman NHL. Follow Tommy on Twitter at TWelcher15. Thanks everybody so much for listening. And as always, let's go Blues.